Hello, everyone at Yavneh and the Yavneh community. Welcome to the special grand final edition of the Yavneh Footy Media Art Studio podcast, which is not in the Yavneh Media Art Studio podcast booth. We are on the holidays. Yom Tov, if I'm not mistaken, is just passed. And here we are, the Thursday before the big dance. And, well, we've got a Melbourne supporter of Yavneh College in the Zoom call right now. And I'm surprised that he's even here in the lid and his house is not filled with Melbourne stuff. But we're talking about Mr. G, and we're going to kick it off with Mr. G. But first, let's just say hi to Mr. Four, Mr. Smith, Zach Strockers, Jack DeGoey Boymel, and Carlia Slade couldn't make it today. But I managed to, she had a committee meeting with the Carlton Football Club, but we managed to get the drama teacher of Yavneh, Mr. ZHB. Welcome to you two in your Dallas Mavericks Fortress of Solitude, I see there.
Thanks so
Okay.
much.
Very nice, very nice. So, Mr. G, well, I'll tell you what, I'm wearing my Premier's top here from 2010. I know what it feels like to win a flag and lose many in my time. You're there now. How does it feel? But firstly, give us some comments and be nice because Mr. Four's in the room about the Melbourne game. Go ahead.
Well, luckily, I actually had class with Mr. Four right after that game, so we've had our back and forth since then. But it feels like a lifetime ago now. This has been the longest 2-week grand final week of all time. Trying to find distractions to get rid of the nerves. It's been amazing. It's so unfortunate it's not in Melbourne. We can't go to the parade tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I guess that's kind of just the whole package of being a Melbourne fan. Even when you experience success, you still get kicked around a little bit. But oh man, I'm so excited for Saturday night. It feels like a once in a lifetime experience, and I'm really hoping it's not. But what a year it's been. I think we deserve to be in the grand final the way we've played this year. The way we played in that prelim was just unbelievable, and let's hope we can back it up this week.
I mean, what were you thinking, Mr. G, watching that prelim? And I've been in a prelim where we smashed an opponent, and that was the Collingwood-Geelong prelim many years ago. But when did were you just amazed at what was happening? Tell us about that. What were your feelings? Just give us.
I couldn't believe it. I think at halftime, Geelong had just kicked 2 in a row. It seemed like, oh, wow, if we don't go off to a good start in this third quarter, it could be trouble. And I think within 5 minutes, we'd kicked 4 goals. And I think that's when, I was watching the game with my wife, who I've managed to convert this season. And she's like, Melbourne are actually in the grand final, aren't they? And the phones were buzzing. And the 4 goals in 5 minutes after halftime, I think that's when we knew, Maxi Gawn has put us in a grand final.
Champion.
What a player to do it as well.
What a champion. What a champion team, champion player. And talking of ex-champions, Mr. Four, would you like to give us your rundown on the Cats and what happened in that game and where to from here? I mean, where to rebuild? You said they're a young list, but it's getting a bit old down there at the Cattery. Tell us what happened.
Oh, Mr. D, I'm glad you've asked. It was a truly memorable game for some, and I'm really loving analysing it yet again. The Cats, it was a tale of 2 teams, one who brought their best, one who brought their worst. The Cats were slow. They are old. There's no doubt about it. They need youth in the midfield. The D's team, they played with... they played really selfless footy. They play for each other. Their captain is an absolute star. I mean, when your captain, your ruckman, is snapping goals from 45 metres out, you know it's going to be a good night, and the D's truly deserve to be there on Saturday.
I mean, I think if Rowan had gotten maybe 2 possessions, you could have won. That's probably what could have. I mean, if you got a couple of more possessions, maybe it could have turned the tide, because it was kind of like you're playing 18 players on the field, but one was just chilling out or something. Anyway, moving on. I don't know.
There were many thanks to give, particularly to the Sydney Swans footy team for giving us Gary Rowan, especially during finals, a real finals type of player. But I'm sure we'll steer well clear of the trade period this year in terms of Swans players coming to Geelong after what happened there.
And you'll probably be going after Clarko, I'm guessing, or Buckley or someone like that, because Scott doesn't perform in the finals, mate. You can do whatever you want during the season, but it just doesn't work.
That's true.
100%. But I just got a question for Mr. Goldstein. I've actually found a bit of a talking point over the last few weeks. Was Nathan Jones. Obviously he's been with Melbourne for a number of years through thick and thin, and he can't get a game when they're finally experiencing victory. What do you think about that?
I think it's one of the most heartbreaking things as a supporter to not see Jones there, because he could have gone at any stage to any team he wanted to, and he stuck around. He said, I want to see success at Melbourne. And then it comes probably 1 year after he's good enough to be best 22. And I think I agree with the coach's decision. I don't think you can compromise for sentimentality in a grand final, but it's heartbreaking. And the fact that he can't be with his wife for the birth and then go back and be there on the day to support the boys is also really, really harsh. I think like if the game was in Melbourne, he'd still be there on Saturday helping them through, and he won't be there for the celebrations if they win or to pick them up if they lose. I think that hurts just as much as not playing, but him not playing, I think he agrees with the decision. I agree with the decision, but it's heartbreaking. He's the one guy we've had our hope on for the last 15, 16 years of some of the worst football the club's been through, and now we're good again, and he's just quite not good enough. He's probably 24th man in. I reckon one injury and he'd be there, but unfortunate.
It's sad,
Yeah,
but that's what happens in footy. There are sad stories like Simon Prestigiacomo, 2010. He pulled himself out of the team. That is a courageous story too. Talking about Collingwood again. Now, Mr. Smith, sitting there.
Yes.
Look, I'm sorry about the Swans, but can you let us know what happened to Port Adelaide and that Bulldogs game?
I actually was hoping we'd talk about Gary Rowan a little bit longer, but no, I feel it. I feel you, Mr. Four, as we exchanged on the night. So look, Port. Let's talk about Port very briefly. So Port are going to be all about the fact that under Hinkley they've lost 3 prelim finals, which is problematic. It's going to that next level is proving somewhat challenging. But it was a funny one really, because I mean obviously it was a complete blowout. It was a bit of a dud game ultimately, unless you're a Bulldogs fan. But I mean it's one of those games where the stats really don't tell the tale. I was flicking through the stats before. Even numbers of disposals. They actually got smashed in the hitouts. The Port won the hitouts, that is. But quite remarkably, probably the big stats that probably went Port's way, Doggies' way. Sorry, the important ones. Inside 50s, contested possessions, intercepts, which is something that Lear had made his mark on, and actually it sort of went the other way. They kind of humbled him. Speaking of ex-Swans, look, it was really impressive. But I think because the stats don't tell the tale, I think what does is enthusiasm, speed. That stuff doesn't show up nearly as much in the stats, and so they were just really blown away by this speedy Bulldogs unit, who you can't begrudge. They've been clearly top 1 or 2 teams all year, and I just think Port ultimately Port didn't beat many good teams all year, and I know just from an impartial point of view, I've got nothing really against or for Port. I just know I had this rule during the tipping comp all season that I wouldn't back them against a good team, and I think they only let me down. If you understand that, they only let me down once. I think they had 1 or 2 surprising wins against a better team, but really they showed they weren't as good as the top 3 or 4 teams most of the year.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Yeah, well, look, with Port, what do you do? Keep losing prelims. Would you rather keep losing prelims or grand finals? Mr. Four is going to be looking in my direction. I don't know how to answer that. I've been through enough. I accidentally flicked Fox Footy on the other day. I know Mr. Four sent me a message. He goes, chuck on Fox Footy. I'm like, oh, here we go. And it was the last 90 seconds of the 2018 Grand Final, which we will not speak
of. I believe
of.
that was me.
Oh, sorry. Oh, that's right. Yep, that's right. Now, Jack DeGoey. Here we go. I've got a question for you, and Mr. G may not like it, but it's got to be asked. How can the D's lose the Grand Final? What's their weakness?
I think the first thing is what worked against the Cats won't work against the Dogs. Demons' most threatening quality was their scoring from contests, 101 points from clearance wins, which is incredible. But the Dogs have McRae, Liberatore, Bontempelli. These guys are in the top 10 contested possessions players of the whole season. So Melbourne, they won't be able to rely on their stoppage scoring and their clearance wins. And Melbourne need more offensive threats to win this game. Their offensive threats against the Cats were, their quick ball movement, scoring from stoppages and Max Gawn. But the Doggies won't let the Demons dominate the stoppages, which means the Demons, they need multiple offensive threats or they will lose because the offensive game style of dominating clearances won't happen when you've got a midfield with Bontempelli, Liberatore, McRae, Baslenka, and all the Bulldogs' elite contested players. So they need to make some big changes if they want to beat the Dogs.
Well, I can see Mr. G's sweating already. He's like, those names, Bontempelli, Smith, Liberatore, it's stressing me out. Maybe it is. I don't know, but, we'll see. But, Jack, that is a very good point, I must say. Mr. ZHB, I've got a couple of questions for you, sir. Actually, no, we'll go with Strockers first. Do you think that Strockers? Do you think that Port? Well, who do you think, Brisbane or Port should have been? What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, I think Mr. Smith covered on Port before, so maybe it's a bit about Brisbane.
Yeah, do you think Brisbane were robbed and should have been in the grand final, not the Dogs?
You know what? I don't think Brisbane should be in the grand final. It was a great match to watch against Bulldogs versus Brisbane, especially down, I think it was at the Gabba as well. So, they had a great opportunity, but I don't think they were robbed. They played well this season. I don't think they played as well as they did last year. Some of their black ball magnets like Lachie Neale didn't really show up all season. I know he was injured, but he had quite an inconsistent one. But I think that it's like the two big powerhouse teams for the whole year, Melbourne and the Doggies, they should be in the final, and they are. So I don't think they're robbed.
All right, fair enough. Mr. ZHB, how are you? And I was going to ask you, how do you think the Dogs can win the grand final? I know Jack touched on it, but I asked Jack, how can the D's lose the grand final? Maybe I'll ask you how can the Dogs lose the grand final? How about that?
How can the Dogs lose the grand final?
Yeah.
Well, I think this game's going to be won in the midfield. They're two very powerful midfield units. Two of the best that I've seen in quite some time, I would say. Obviously, the Dogs might have a slight edge there if those players aren't firing. So if McRae's not getting, 35 touches and smashing out further that record for touches in a season, maybe they're not going to win if they're not getting those touches from those players. If Bont doesn't kick a couple of goals, considering Bruce isn't there anymore. Obviously, Alex Keith is coming back this week, is he? Or he's fit. So I think if the defense isn't clicking for them and he's not fully fit, that's probably not going to bode well for them. Your big midfield players like Libber and Bailey Smith are going to need to get a lot of touches as well. And obviously Norton's probably going to need to kick quite a few goals considering they don't have the strongest forward line, but I believe Cody Waitman's available for selection, so that might help if they include him. Depends how many free kicks he gets, I guess. But yeah, I think it'll be won or lost in the midfield. And obviously, if they're not going to contain Gawn at least a little bit, then that's not going to bode well for them either.
Well, interesting, Mr. ZHB. But another question for you, completely off topic that I was going to ask Carlia, but as a Carlton supporter, but Voss at Carlton. Now, I know you're a Bombers man and Carlton's not one of your favourite teams, but what do you think of that move?
I know I've got the same kind of hair as Carlia, but probably not going to have the same opinions on Carlton as she might. So, look, Voss was a Carlton supporter growing up. I know that much. So maybe that'll help him in his endeavours to get them to, win a couple more games than they usually do. But I don't exactly have faith in any coach coming to Carlton at this point in time after their run of mediocrity, we'll say.
Yep. And Collingwood have got Bolton now. So we've got the ultimate team, Mr. Four. We've got Bolton, McRae, Leppich. This is the time for Collingwood. We'll just rename this podcast the Collingwood Podcast. But no, it's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Melbourne are in the grand final. Mr.
I thought it was the Collingwood Podcast.
Yeah, I thought that's what it was called too.
Now, we're getting into I wish I had my sound effects, but we're not in the Yavneh Media Art Studio Vodcast booth. But now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of things. Mr. G, I know who you're going to pick. I need your winner of the grand final and the Norm Smith. Winner by how much and the Norm Smith?
I don't think anyone's ever tipped against their team in the grand final, and I'm not going to be the first either. I'd love to win
against
the
a
game.
team all year.
Yeah, but that's for emotional hedging. This is a grand final. I'm not going to go into grand final believing we lose, and I'm not going to be the first to tip against my team. I think Bulldogs are the one team I didn't want to play, put it that way. And I think Jack Boymel spoke about why their midfield is amazing. It's 1-1 for the season. I think in both games, the team that won the midfield battle won the game, and quite easily as well. I think it was 4 goals both times. So we need to be on the top of our game. And if we're going to do that, I think we'd be able to win the match. I think we win down back and up forward, but I think their midfield is just the difference that we need to stop. And if we are going to do that, it comes down once again to Mr. Third in the Brownlow, but not good enough to be top 5 midfielders in the league, according to a certain year 12, Clayton Oliver. So what did Stringer get in the Brownlow? Like 8 votes or something, was it? But yeah, so I think obviously I'd love for us to win. And if we do, it will be Oliver or Petrarca that wins it for us. I think Oliver's probably the better player. More important, I'd be shocked if we win, if he wasn't the one to get the Norm Smith. If Bulldogs won, then you're looking at Bont McRae and Caleb Daniel, I think, for them.
Okay. Well, we've got your tip from Mr. G. Mr. 4. Now, remember, Cats aren't playing, so no Dangerfield, please. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I've got one out of left field for you today. I've got the D's winning. I think they're a powerful unit. But I've actually got Jakey Lever as the Norm Smith on Saturday if the D's win. However, I've got a little bit of an asterisk on that as Shaki played an amazing role on Alir 2 weekends ago. And if he can perhaps do the same on Jakey Lever, that puts the Bulldogs in a very good position to win the game. If he doesn't get on top and Lever takes his 10 intercept marks and puts it straight down the other end, he'll take out the Norm Smith.
All right. Thank you, Mr. 4. Interesting. Mr. Smith, Norm Smith, and winner by how much?
Norm Smith, my namesake medal. My great-granddad won it the first time. Not really. Right, Melbourne for me. I'm sort of captain obvious with these things, so I like the left. I actually like that Jake Lever pick, but I think Gorney. Gorn's been unbelievable. I think, and there is not a neutral observer that I think that doesn't like Max Gawn, and I think I think we're all again, unless you're a Bulldog supporter, I think everyone's been cheering him on. I think he's been fantastic, and I just can see him having a huge impact. I think obviously the Bulldogs' ruck's been a weak spot, but it's not even in the ruck; it's him all over the park. I think, and just playing a key role. So I can see him again being a match winner. I think it's going to be a really interesting game. I can really see Melbourne seem to have done their best work in the second halves of games, and I can see Bulldogs getting off to a good start and it being a really tight finish. Sorry, Mr. G, although you'll take it. I can sort of see like an 7.8 point victory of the D coming from behind. And again, Gorney for the Norm.
All right, gotcha. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Jack, need your Norm Smith and winner and margin, please.
Well, as a Collingwood fan, I think I know better than anyone that prelim dominance doesn't really affect the next week. And I think that's the beauty of the grand final. Nothing else that's happened matters. It's all about, the hour and 20 minutes of footy that's going to be played. I'm tipping the upset. I've got the Dogs by 6 points. And they've just got a more versatile lineup. People like Treloar, Baslanka, Bontempelli, they're versatile. They can play mid or forward. If they're having problems with clearances, put the power in the mid. If they're not scoring, you put the power in the forward line. And obviously, their backline, Wood, Daniel, Johannesson. And if they can, so a big game for Tim English. I think a lot of pressure on him because, look, it's going to be tough for Gorney to back up, 5 goals and 20 plus disposals. But if Tim English plays a good job on him, if the Dogs can, use their star power well, I think the Dogs will win by 6 points in a ripping game of footy. And my tip for the Norm Smith is Bailey Baslanka Smith. He's kicked 7 goals in the last 2 games and he tends to drift forward and mid. So I believe his stat line could very well look like 2 or 3 goals and 25 plus disposals. And I think that's enough to lock in the Norm Smith. So I'm going for the upset.
Nice, Jack. You mentioned Treloar there. He left our club.
Left.
Yep. No, look, we'll talk about Treloar later, but he didn't leave. He's actually great player. Good on him. Mr. Zach, give us your Norm Smith and margin, please.
Yep, me?
Go ahead. Yes.
All right, sweet, Mr. D. You know what? I'm going to take... Well, I love to Dufka go against Mr. G's Demons, so I will do that. this week. I'm going to go the Doggies, about 14 points. Honestly, I can see this being one of the closest matches of the year. Not going to lie, when I think about this, and it's also grand final, it does give me memories from the Pies versus West Coast.
Yes.
Sorry to bring it up, obviously, but I am going to go the Doggies. I think Norm Smith, I think Bailey Smith, I'm going to agree with Jack. Absolute ripping form the last few weeks, and I don't see him stopping down. So I'm going to go the Dogs.
All right, mark that down. This tally is looking interesting. Mr. ZHB, give us your Norm Smith and winner and margin.
Well, I think it's a pretty hard to pick this grand final for once. Well, sometimes it's hard, but I don't know. For this one, it's really interesting. I think there's a lot of X factors that can go any way, but I think the ultimate X factor in the entire league is Christian Petrarca, and so I think track, like Clary is a great shot for the Norm Smith for sure. I like Mr. G's pick there; it's the obvious one, but I think track as the second best midfielder on that team is the ultimate X factor in the league, and he's going to pull it out for the D's in a 16-point win and get the Norm Smith.
Okay, well, looking at the tally so far, I'll give you my tip in a sec. We've got 4 D's tips and 2 Dogs. Mine, look, I've broken it down into this. I really, it's difficult, but I'm going to go Norm Smith. I'm picking Petrarca because of that Italian connection. Italy, Greece are very close. So, yeah, there's that. But my Greek coffee cup this morning, I read it, got my grandma to read it. And let me tell you something, guys. This is what's going to happen. I really want the D's to win for Neil Danaher, for Barassi, for a little bit for Lyon, but more for Barras than Neil Danaher, right? And for Nathan Jones. That would be the ultimate fairy tale. Great. Petrarca winning, Gorn killing it, everything great. However, the Hollywood side of me tells me this, and talking about 2018, I've just got a feeling that in the last couple of minutes, Mr. G, and look, I lived through this live at the MCG. I just got a bad feeling that in the last minute and a half, someone is going to have a shot. It'll either be Bontempelli or Gorn to put the team in front by like 4 points. It'll be 2 points difference. So Melbourne will be up by 2, or Bulldogs. Someone's going to have a Dom sheet from the boundary type shot. And it,
Who?
Yeah, I don't want to even talk about that name. But yeah, I've just got this thing in my head where it's going to be decided by a kick like that. Because you know what? I want someone else to feel that pain. And I want all the highlights to be that. I'm sick of seeing it on Fox Footy, every single ad. I want a new highlight for the media to use and not Dom sheet from the boundary. Because
do you think that the whoever takes the mark and kicks the goal, do you think his direct opponent will be illegally blocked this year or not?
Yeah, that too. Yeah. And you know what? And I want Demons to win. That's my thing. But if Bulldogs do win, I would love to see Treloar just come out and win the Norm Smith and be like, "Hello, everyone at Collingwood. Look what I've got." And because it was a disgrace what happened there. But we're not talking about Collingwood.
You are paying a little bit of his salary, so that would mean one of your players has won a flag.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm wearing my 2010. I remember that. But I've been through too much pain, Mr. G. I don't want you to go through that pain, please, because the Demons haven't bothered me at all. The Cats have bothered me over the years, and the West Coast and all those they've bothered me. But I can't really dislike the Demons at all. I really wish the best for you, Mr. G, because it is a great feeling when you win one, but when you lose them, it sticks with you. And yep, I've just got a bad feeling that it's going to be a moment like that. I hope that it's a Maxi Gorn to put him in front, but or I think even Bontempelli, someone could miss it in the last minute. It could be a missed shot or something like that. So yeah, that's it from me, guys. Look, it is going to be quite a weekend, but I just want to thank everyone for jumping on the holidays after Yom Tov. And look, anyone got any Strockers? You always have a huge call. Have you got a huge call at all for the weekend?
I've got to say something. Is this our last week? Are we going to be doing a recap of the grand final?
Yeah, we might do that. We'll see if we've got time.
We're doing a Big Bash podcast, aren't we? Big Bash podcast?
Big Bash. Does Alan Border still play or what?
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I hope we do another one because obviously I'm graduating in a few weeks. So
yes. Well, we will. We'll organise next week. We'll get one sorted for that. Actually, it'll be a good one. So let's not forget that. We'll organise that. Mr. Four, Mr. Smith, Mr. G, Mr. Strocklick, Jack, and Mr. ZHB for joining us. Everyone at Yavneh out there, Hope you enjoyed this Yavneh Footy Grand Final podcast, the first Grand Final podcast we've had, but not from the Yavneh Media Studio booth. It has been quite an effort, but we've managed to get it all done. Go the D's, it's a grand old flag, or Sons of the West. What are we going to hear? I'm actually nervous for Mr. G. I am actually pretty nervous with this game. I don't know.
Mr. G Goldstein.
Mr. G Goldstein. He's been through enough over the years. And Mr. Four, look, you can just watch there like me and Mr. Smith and Jack and Mr. ZHB. Mr. ZHB hasn't seen a finals win for 6,500 days, but yeah, whatever.
Who's counting, right?
I'm not sure he's seen.
You're counting.
I'm not sure you've seen daylight for that long, have you, Mr. HB?
Yeah, I got out yesterday.
Good
went
to
on
see.
a nice walk. Went to the post office. Got my
Nice.
first Pfizer. You know how it is.
Nice.
Big day
Awesome.
yesterday. Yeah.
Awesome. And a
All
lot
right,
of
guys.
FIFA.
Well, we will call that a wrap. And Mr. G, I'll see you on the WhatsApp, but we will organise for next week. Thank you all. Well, I can't say Shana Tova, but Shabbat Shalom to all. And I will see you guys soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. D. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.